My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. What a weekend of cricket we have ahead of us, not just because of the potential excitement, but because the potential of making it into the top four. We keep mentioning that phrase, the business end of the tournament. Well, this is the business part of the business end, because this is where it could all happen. By the time you surface on Monday morning, we could have decided quite a lot as far as numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 are concerned. What are the two matches that lie ahead today on Super Saturday? First up, it's going to be Delhi against Mumbai. At one point in time, it was 1 versus 2. This is match number 51. And then an equally crucial game at night, which is going to be Bangalore taking on Hyderabad from Sharjah, which at one point in time was a 6-hitting ground. Things have changed slightly, but you still have some pretty hard hitters in those two sides. But for now, we'll focus on the first game at hand. But first, it's time to greet our guests in the studio, Shaun Pollock and Joy Bhattacharjya. Good afternoon and good morning, respectively, gentlemen.
Yeah, hi, Gautam.
Joy, let me come to you first up. I mean, we keep trying to play up games as being big games, but really, in terms of where we stand in the tournament, it doesn't get bigger than this afternoon as the first of the four.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot at stake, and it's interesting. Normally, you don't have so much at stake when qualified or almost qualified teams are playing, but Delhi is literally A, playing for qualification, B, playing for a chance in the top two. I think the top two is a really important game for them, and I think Mumbai just want to seal it. They're trying their combinations out, a couple of changes out there. Interesting to see how Mumbai is going to play this one, but there's one thing. Absolutely, they're going for a win. I mean, the way they've constructed their team, the way they're doing it, they are giving people rest, but they're going for a win.
Yep. Quick reminder, it's Pollard who's won the toss, has asked the Delhi boys to come out and have a first crack. And here's a reminder of the points table. This is where the points table is much more important than even the squad makeup, which is what we normally show you at this time of the show. So have a look at that. Only team with a Q going into the final weekend. That has not happened, at least in my memory, to have just one team with a guaranteed Q next to their name. That's Mumbai. Now they just have to determine where they finish in terms of 1, 2, or even 3, the way things can possibly go. But Delhi, who are in third place at the moment, who are top at one point in time. But the big thing for them, Shaun Pollock, is unlike we're going to talk about many other teams and the scenarios, etc. For Delhi, it's win today, get through, don't worry about the last game.
Yeah, and they've got to get back to winning ways. They haven't played great cricket in the last few games they've participated in. Their bowlers have gone a little bit for the boil. They haven't quite been at the same intensity. So they'll be wanting to get back to winning ways and want to play better cricket. Also, it's that time of the tournament, talking from a Mumbai perspective, where as a team and as a unit, you sort of look around the competition, you say, well, these teams are the ones we feel comfortable playing against because we think we can beat them 9 out of 10. But there are the other teams that it might be a bit of a 60-40 or 50-50 kind of performance. And when you've got the opportunity to try and eliminate them in these last few games of the tournament, you need to take that chance. So if they fear Delhi Capitals and what Delhi Capitals can do to them later on in the tournament, this is the chance to put Delhi Capitals under pressure. Make sure they don't get into the 1 or 2 playoff and make their passage to the final and maybe to winning the tournament just that little bit easier.
Also, Joy, this is when we start, or teams rather, start looking for that. I mean, it should be a lot earlier, but just finalizing that 11 that they'd like to walk out with in that first playoff, no matter where you're playing 1, 2, 3, or 4. And for Mumbai, well, they've got that Rohit Sharma conundrum. He's still not in. Pollard is captaining. And let's confirm the changes, Joy, and you can talk us through them. Interesting ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Hardik Pandya, it has to be that he's being given a rest. There's obviously nothing out there. Also, what happens is Jayant Yadav is no mean guy with the bat, but he also gives you some really handy off spin. So I think they're just trying him out there. I mean, Hardik is a very precious commodity for them, so they don't want to risk it. Kultaline there, I mean, again, that you're talking about fast bowlers, Patterson, Kultaline, they'll keep changing them around. They'll keep seeing that both of them are fit. And I think Patterson so far on average has performed better. But I think they want to give Kultaline a run and see that they have all options ready for it. So I don't think Mumbai is tinkering too much. And, Hardik and Rohit for them are such essential players. I can quite understand that if they're not 100% fit, they'll just give them a rest. Hardik's back is something that India and Mumbai Indians worry about all the time.
Yeah, interesting that Jayant Yadav is only player number 14 used by the Mumbai Indians this year. And I think that really sums up what their secret of their success, really.
Yeah, it is. And, you don't want to mess around with teams. I think it's always difficult. It's a hell of a difficult way, especially in an environment like they've had this year, where you've got basically one space. You're in the hotel, you're in the team room, and you keep looking around and seeing these players who like, coach, any chance I can catch a game? But there's a job to be done, and that's the hardest part. The communication is so important. I remember the first RPL, I think we had about 40 players in the hotel. So to keep them all busy and to let them know whether they weren't or were in the mix is a very challenging scenario for management groups in this tournament. But there's no doubt that once you've got your unit, once everyone understands their roles, it does make for better performances if you're stable, if you're balanced. I mean, if you look around the tournament, the ones that have chopped and changed, in many ways, have had to chop and change because their teams haven't performed, whereas Mumbai knows what they're going to get from their players. And it's just a case now of making sure when the knockout phase comes, when the final games come, that everyone's raring to go. So if Hardik's back is sore, give him a chance to get it right. If someone's struggling for form, give them as many balls at the crease as you can possibly go, so that you've got most of your 11 players in good form, raring to go.
Well, in sharp contrast, when Shaun Pollock mentioned that, coach, any chance of me, I was thinking of someone like Sandeep Lamichhane, who's a quality player, yes, an international player, but he's been pretty much going to Ricky Ponting going, yes, no, okay, I'll sit down. And Delhi have made wholesale changes, unlike Mumbai. And today, again, they've put in 3 changes, just trying to sort out probably what's happening on the field and what's happening in the heads as well, to try and get things the way that it was at the start of the season, because they didn't have a bad start. But today, Prithvi Shaw had a bad run of form. He finally comes back in. No Ajinkya Rahane. Harshal Patel makes his way back in, and that was probably expected for Tushar Deshpande. And one interesting one, Joy, Praveen Dubey. Finally, so much talk about him. He makes it. What a big game for him.
Yeah, so I'll start with Prithvi because it's an interesting one. I think that it was never a case that, I know Ponting, or the way Ponting looks at players, I think there was never a case that Rahane was going to be preferred over Prithvi. Ponting, this is more about, Rahane playing was more about getting Prithvi's head in order rather than getting Rahane to play into form. So I think Prithvi would have come back. He wants Prithvi to be angry enough, his ego to be hurt enough to want to come back and really perform. I mean, that's how it works. Whether it works or it doesn't work is a different matter today. But I just cannot understand a player of Akshar Patel's quality not playing what is a really crucial match. Because see, Tushar Deshpande for Harshal Patel is an easy one to say. Tushar hasn't done enough for them, really. He may be a bit faster, but I think Harshal has more variation. Harshal is a more proven prospect in that sense. And Harshal captains Haryana. He's a smart cricketer on the field. But one of the smartest cricketers I know is Akshar Patel. And I mean, Polly Adby, I'm just amazed that he's not playing today.
Yeah, a big surprise for me. I think he's been great in the tournament with ball, even with bat. He's given them plenty. So it is a big surprise for me. You do think maybe there's a little niggle there or something, because it doesn't make cricket sense to me, honestly. I think I've been impressed by what I've seen from him. So it would be interesting to get the inside story. But big time to be making that change.
Yeah, I can tell you more than once he's been our My 11 Circle Trump player. We'll reveal a little bit later who it is for today. But for now, a quick reminder that you actually have to pick your teams. It's a good time to do it now that we've discussed the 11s. You know what the changes are. If you were one of those who stuck with Akshar Patel throughout, you need to take him out right now. You have enough time to do that. Create your own team. Of course, get a captain and a vice captain in at this time of the tournament. You really need to decide, you want a bowler or a batsman as a captain or a vice captain. But really, business end, I said, let's forget the teams for now. Let's come to the qualification scenario. That's what everyone's talking about. Whether you make the 11 or don't make the 11, we've got the specialist with us, Shaun Pollock. Shaun, this is the time of the tournament where everyone's looking to you to say, Shaun, give us scenarios.com.
Yeah, there's plenty of scenarios, isn't there? And that's why this is going to be such an amazing weekend to determine. By the end of it, we'll have a pretty good idea who's got to do what and who's through. So, yeah, big games for these two. Obviously, trying to get into the top 2, that's vitally important. But the business end, as you talk about, is where the other teams can go. 18 they can get if they qualify. These top 2 finishes that Mumbai will be eyeing out. Delhi versus Bangalore, one will finish on 16 or more. Well, we're going to have to wait and see who that'll be. But the one team guaranteed into the playoffs on 14. And it's always interesting to see it in this tournament. Often 50% win still gets you through. With a 50% win with a good net run rate, you can get through. Hyderabad, they've got a brilliant chance. Their net run rate's superb. If they win the last two, I think we almost thought they were out of it, didn't we, at one stage? But scenarios.com has shown that's not the case. And actually, if they play proper cricket, they've got a really good chance. Punjab can finish on 14. And then the big one, the one that'll end the weekend, Kolkata versus Rajasthan, who will finish on 14. So, yeah, thoroughly entertaining. And I think you've even got some more graphics for us, exactly what best scenario is for each team, so that the supporters of each of those teams can have a look and say, okay, this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, of course, this is all about the weekend, Joy. But really, one thing you want at this stage, even if it means that 2 back-to-back wins, is to have everything in your own hands as opposed to a result that somebody else has to provide for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's Hyderabad's biggest advantage. The fact that given that their run rate is so superior, they just need to win. I mean, they're likely, yes, there is a chance, but it's a mathematical chance. I mean, you need teams losing by 150 runs and stuff like that to happen. You need matches which will seriously be looked at by, people, the ICC security, if, they lose by that many points. But that's what I'm saying. So Hyderabad, they're injury ravaged again. Vijay Shankar is now out. We're hearing that Riddhiman Shah can play, but Vijay Shankar is out. But Hyderabad has it in their hands, which is why it makes it very interesting, because if Hyderabad lose today, I mean, today, there are so many Bangalore supporters in Calcutta and Rajasthan, you cannot imagine. Everyone would be supporting Hyderabad Bangalore, because they say, knock out Hyderabad for us. Then, we can't control Punjab, but, this thing. So that's what they need. They need Bangalore to beat Hyderabad. Then tomorrow, they'll support Chennai. Today, so they'll support Virat one day, they'll support Dhoni tomorrow. And then if both those results go their way, then they'll say, okay, let's beat each other. Now it's between you and me. And I think then it's a straight knockout between the two of them. Whoever gets on 14 goes through. So I think that's the scenario. But as I said, for that to happen, they need 2 matches to go their way. That means the chances of Kolkata and Rajasthan's fate being in their hands is 25%. It's half into half, 25%. So there's a 25% chance that both results, they are in a situation whereby tomorrow evening they control their destiny.
And all of you out there wondered, when you get into your class 8 or your class 9 maths class and you say, look, I'm a little bored of this class. Will I really use it in real life? The answer is, yes, you will. Yes, we are. And it's very vital no matter which field of life you get into. And we're all lovers of sport. And we know maths certainly plays a huge part, especially in situations like this. But just one quick point, and I know we'll talk a lot more about it. There's also a little bit about a team like Chennai and how much motivation they'll have to actually continue to help out other teams. It's one thing to play for pride. It's another thing to actually put your everything on the line to go out and beat a team like Punjab, Shaun.
Yeah, it is. It's a situation where I think the last 2 games, Chennai would have been very disappointed by the way the tournament's gone and that the season has panned out. And then all of a sudden they made some changes and they put in 2 quality performances. But the big thing for them is that as human beings, you do start to think ahead. And most of them will be thinking, well, it's going to be one flight and I'm going to be out of the bubble. I'm going to be back in my house. As a management staff, how do you just keep them focused for one more game? The confidence will be up now that they've started to play better and they won that last ball event in their last game. But you can't fight against it. Everyone will be starting to think, oh, let me get to my own car. Let me get to my own bed. Let me get on that plane and get home. And you have to try and keep them focused. So if they come to the game and they get off to a good start, it's easy to do so. But if it starts to spiral and things aren't looking comfortable, they often are very easy teams to beat. So it'll be interesting to see what mindset Chennai come with tomorrow, because they still have a massive part to play in who gets through.
Yep, that's they've actually dented. They were the ones who started by denting it for Kolkata, and they're the ones who have actually come back now with a win and helped Kolkata out. Maybe someone like Piyush Chawla Joy, who's worn the purple jersey before, and he hasn't had enough of a chance to bat and justify your faith in him. Maybe he should open the batting for Chennai.
Why are you on about Piyush Chawla? I like the man. He's one.
I still love him. I was just saying that with the one person who can have some Kolkata motivation inside the yellow jersey.
I've learned this the hard way. Nobody retains any loyalty once the jersey changes. And I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think you need to leave it behind. But no, really, I think I agree with Polly. They're sitting out there and they're looking at it and they're saying, you know what, 4 more days, then duty-free shopping, a little bit of duty-free shopping, the shops are open. then I go back and I'll sleep in my own bed. And it doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot given the kind of stress that the players are under, because 2.5 months, and especially a lot of players, it's when you lose, it's especially tough. It's very, very difficult, because when you lose normally, you have other things to distract you. What people used to do when they used to lose very often is you go and meet people who are not into cricket, friends who are outside cricket, who've got nothing to do with this, and your mind is clear. Here, the only people you're seeing are the same stuff day in, day out. So when you're losing, bubbles are very, very difficult things to be in. So yeah, I can understand. It's going to be psychologically very tough. I hope the right Chennai turns out, because this is such a good tournament. It's a shame if they sort of roll over and die. But yeah, it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah. But given the fact that, every team's sort of been lining up for MS's jersey, so I think everyone's got a yellow jersey sitting in their dressing room. So we'll see how the yellow tends to affect the teams. For now, the Boost Stamina Meter, and it's been someone who's been a talking point for a lot of players. We'll just quickly have a look at the leaderboard before we come to reveal who the player is. And this is where we can see Jofra Archer still sitting pretty on top of that with a stamina score of 83.5. And he'll be back in action tomorrow on Super Sunday. Kohli will be playing tonight. Rahul back tomorrow. But who is the player in focus today? And our Boost Stamina Meter player for today is Surya Kumar Yadav. And yes, he's been the talking point both on and off the field. He's been outstanding, batting rating of 61.4. It's just going to go upwards. Average of 43 balls at the pitch, running for 45.4% of time at the pitch. And he's usually fields in hot spots. But I think, Shaun Pollock, the real talk about Surya Kumar Yadav is, yes, he's got his runs, but is he slightly being helped by some of the bowlers? And you had some interesting points on that.
Yeah, I think just the analysis. I think when you look at the Mumbai team, you've got the hard-hitting Pandya and Pollard to come. You've got Rohit Sharma and Quinton de Kock at the top of the order. So a lot of focus goes into those guys. And I don't think the guys have done enough work on Surya Kumar. I think the areas that they hit, I think it could be a lot better. I think they're giving him a lot of free balls to play into his strength. So I think because of his performance, what they're going to do is they're going to start to analyze him a bit better and start to come up with some good plans about what they should or shouldn't do to Surya. And I think there are some good areas outside the off stump, good length, tight on the off stump. I think those are the kind of areas where you've got to say to him, that's not his strength, really, to hit the ball back over the seamers' heads. He loves to deflect. He plays the spinners pretty well over extra cover and sweep. But they've got to try and make him play out of those areas. And sometimes when you're a bit of a lesser player, the analysis that they do isn't as intense. I think it will be as intense as it needs to be now because of the form that he's shown throughout this tournament.
Joy, you've seen him up close. Shaun's given us a bit of a technical side to Surya. What about the mental side to him, given everything that's happened recently? A little close-up conversation with the Indian captain. How is he the kind of person who'll take this in his stride and come out a better person?
I think Surya is a mercurial character, absolutely mercurial character, and has been for a very long time. And he was the under-23 India captain. Then he made it well. And in 2014, if you remember, he was a star for Kolkata. Then they batted him the next year at number 4. And things didn't pan out. And then after that, he was Mumbai captain. And then that didn't work out. Surya's thing is Surya has to be in charge of his own mind. Surya has to be calm. So what I really liked about Surya, actually the best for me was not the short say, the fact that when Virat Kohli walked up and tried to sort of provoke him by staring him down, he just looked back at him and didn't react. That shows a maturity that Surya has not shown in past days. And I think that's something. The other is that even not going to Australia, for all the comments that have happened, he's not made any comment about it. He's let it be. He's let other people speak on his behalf. And it's a different matter at all, like whether we discuss whether he deserves to be there or doesn't deserve to be there. The fact is, he didn't consider it smart to comment himself on his not being there directly. And so I think it's a slightly more mature marriage sometimes does that to you. Slightly more mature, slightly more mellow version of Surya. And I think that's good for him.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that on social media, of course, and you get to see a softer side to them. But the gesture I liked most was at the end of the previous innings when he simply went, "Main hoon na." So it's something you want as a reliability factor. It's a phrase you're familiar with by now, Shaun. "Main hoon na."
No.
He's a wrong
Explain.
Yeah, it's a Shah Rukh Khan movie which just says, "Don't worry, I'm there. Main hoon na." So it's something we've got to get you to say before the show is out. So learn it by heart, and we'll get it you to say it in your best accent, which we know you always perfect. For now, let's. Oh, well done. That's lovely. We're going to get an even better, more passionate version before the show is out. But yeah, and that's basically the gesture from Surya. If you couldn't read lips, that's what he was saying. So
cool.
yeah, reliability has certainly been a factor for that middle order batsman. And that's why he was on our boost stamina meter. But what about someone who might just be a left field choice for you? Remember, no Rohit Sharma still, which means we're expecting at the top of the order when they come to chase down whatever score Delhi put on the board, it's going to be Ishan Kishan. And that's why we've put him as our My 11 Circle trump card. Yes, he's someone you should have in there. Sometimes he goes really hard, but he does pick up those valuable points for you. And sometimes in the field as well, those 10, 20, 30 points can be invaluable. But in Rohit Sharma's absence, gentlemen, very quickly, he really didn't know what kind of explosion you'd get at the top. And we weren't sure about Quinton de Kock's form at that point in time. But he's been a great foil to Quinny, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been good. I mean, he started at number 3. He came in place of Saurabh Tiwari. But has had to step up to the plate and go at the top of the order. And I think he's been pretty good. You know, he is someone who offers you a bit of a pocket rocket, gives it a good smack. And yeah, I think he's full value to get into your My 11 team. I think he's definitely a guy who can earn you some quality points.
Yep, fair enough. Joy, we'll leave that alone for the moment. But my big question to you is, you've always had a great descriptor about the question that you've put. I remember early on in the tournament, you said it was so easy, it's as slow as my bowling. So give us a descriptor before you come to the question.
If I was to describe it with Shaun's bowling, this is for Shaun, which is very, very rare, a slow full toss outside the off stump. I think Shaun
that easy.
I think Shaun will knock it back in 30 seconds.
So basically, Shaun not bowling to Surya Kumar Yadav.
Pressure.
All right. Sky's the limit. Go for it, Joy.
Yeah, here's a question coming up. And this is a proper test and ODI, and it's got to do with the period that Shaun knows very well. If McGrath has done it 104 times in test matches, who has achieved a particular feat 110 times in one-day international cricket? And what is the feat? It is, of course, a bowler, and it is, of course, something which all bowlers love to do. That's all the hint I'll give Shaun.
You said it was easy. That's not easy.
Okay. Well, Shaun hasn't picked it up that easily. Fair enough. So we'll.
He's just fooling around with us.
Yeah. I'm so glad you went through the question. I had to make my one quick change to my 11 Circle team. So thank you very much for allowing me those 30 seconds to do that. But I will not reveal who it is, because I know the moment I start revealing my team, I get ribbed about it all day. And today's a double header. I'm going to be ribbed about it all day long. But yes, you focus on the question. And for all three of us, we need to focus on our My 11 Circle badge of honor, something that I'm desperately trying to catch up on that particular meter. So Shaun Pollock, would you like to go first for a 20-over score for the Delhi Capitals with Prithvi Shaw back in the lineup?
I'm going to go for 177.
Okay.
177. I'm going to go second, Joy. A little bit less. I'm going for 164.
Okay. I'm actually going above Shaun this time. I'm going to go for 185. I thought 173, but then that's too close to Shaun. It doesn't make sense. That was my original number. Let me go higher, 185. Then we'll at least cover a lot of ground. And if Delhi gets 185, it will be a terrific game.
It certainly will be. They need that. Remember, this is a big game. Delhi need to win. If they win, they have qualified. Only one team with that big queue next to them, and they're playing right now to try and keep it there, to try and keep numbers 1 and 2 for them. That's Mumbai. Mumbai versus Delhi, back in the 10th over with Cricbuzz Combox. And then at the halfway stage, in fact, the quarterway stage, as far as our big doubleheader is concerned, My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you soon.